Alright, here's the machine as you'll receive it. It could be disassembled further. There are two screws on the bottom where you can pull out the cylinder and a couple of rings. Typically you don't have to remove those ever. I'll leave those together. So I'll ship this as one piece. It should be well packaged up for you. When you get it, you're going to clamp it to a solid surface. I'm using this stool here because I don't want to injure our kitchen table. When you screw it down, it will leave some dents on the bottom side, so make sure wherever you attach this to, it's someplace where you're okay with a little bit of damage. Just slide it on in until it's nice and snug. And screw these two bottom screws into their hand tight. Don't over crank it. First thing you want to put on is the yarn mast, which will be this rod and this yarn guide. Put the top piece on first. Just slide the rod in until it just comes through. Use a flat screwdriver. Screw until it's snug. Put it right in here. Doesn't fit right away, back the screw out. Then center it here so it's mostly over the front of the machine. Doesn't have to be exact. And once again, snug up that screw. Second thing you want to do is put on the yarn guide on the side here. Looks like this. We'll just slide on here and it'll tighten it down. The exact position of this is important. Once you have the needles in, you'll have to readjust it. So remember, put it in, but later adjust it once the needles are in place. It's extremely important with the rubber needles. They will need to go underneath here, so if it's too low it will cause some problems. So that's in place. There's also a screw on top here if you wanted to adjust this in and out. It's in the right spot right now, but over time it may loosen up and you may have to tweak with that every so often. Next thing you want is the handle. This is the one with the bent handle. I have a spare in here. The spare doesn't work quite as good, so I suggest using this one. If it causes any problems to your wrist, you may want to try to find something to straighten it out. Just slide it right on here. Position is important. You want to watch where the counterweight and the handle is, so it's opposite of this. The important thing is you don't want, this is fine, you just don't want your fingers impacting either the yarn guide or the rubber mount. So that's working just fine. So I'll take this screw and this washer, I'll probably actually have it already in here for shipping. Put it in there, use the flat screwdriver, tighten it up, nothing too crazy. You notice on the top side here there is a small hole that is for oil. You don't need to put a ton of oil on there, but every once in a while when you're oiling the machine, that's one of the spots to worry about. So everything is in here except for the needles. There will be two bags. The longer needles are for your cylinder. The shorter needles will be for the rubber. The cylinder takes 60 needles, the rubber takes 30. I have 100 for the cylinder and 50 for the rubber, so you do have some spares. These are new needles, so you're in good shape. So we'll start with the cylinder needles. Now I did have these in the machine to be used, so there is some oily residue on here. Keep that in mind. Don't wear white when working with the machine. So if you get close up here, there's a spring that goes around the cylinder here that holds the needles in. You need to get the needle underneath that. The very first needle you put in is a little difficult. I actually use the hook side here. Just go in here and gently grab it and pull it out. So you want to pull it a little bit here and then take the back side of the needle and slide it down like that and up. So the first needle's in and I'll push that down. The first needle is the hardest. After that, you just push out, put the next needle in, slide it down. Make sure that the latches are open and in the down position, like so. I'm not going to put them all in today, I'm just giving you an example. When you crank, the needle should go up a little bit here. It's going to be hard to see. And back up. So that's a smooth flowing. If anything feels rough or off, either add some oil or lubricant or check to make sure nothing's amiss. The next part is the ribber here. The bottom here spins freely. There is a switch here called in or out. In means, I'm not sure, I can't remember which one it was. I believe in means the ribber's in use, and out means the ribber's out of use. Double check that. There also is this lever here, it just slides out, and that would free up so the whole thing can spin. That's just if you want to get a kink out or something like that. Typically you want that engaged. This is where the ribber gets mounted. On the bottom side of the ribber there is this lever that will butt up against the back side of this. So position that so that will be roughly there. So you notice when it turns, this catches and stops there. The grooves here should roughly line up with one of the grooves on here. There is on the back side here, there's a screw. This adjusts the orientation back and forth slightly so you can fine tune it. Rubber needles are really straightforward. There's no spring for the rubber needles. I'm gonna do this out here in the bag, be better. Gotta be smarter than the bag. Which is hard for me this morning, apparently. I'll have these in a different bag when I ship these to you. This bag seems to be past its prime. There we go. So here's rubber needles. They're very much like the cylinder needles, but just shorter. When you use the ribber, you will remove the cylinder needle that corresponds with the ribber slot. Right now, just for demonstration, I'll put it where there are no cylinder needles. Once again, when you put them in, make sure the latch is in the open position. I'll just put 3 in here so you can watch it go around. So when it comes around, the needles are going to go in this slot. And right now it's on the out or off position, so they just stay where they are. I'm going to switch this to the on position. So now you're going to watch them as it comes around. They're going to come out. This is where they would grab the yarn coming out of the yarn guide there. This is why it's important to make sure those needles pass clearly underneath here, but not too far underneath. And that's how it all flows. To take these needles out, these needles just slide right out. Pretty straightforward. This is a mechanical device. You do need to lubricate it. I use a spinning wheel oil bottle. This is from Shocked. Do not use the oil that normally comes in the bottle. It's 30-weight motor oil. It becomes very messy. I personally like a silicone lubricant. It's cleaner. Especially when you're using lighter colored yarns, it has less chance of staining. Always have some rag handy to wipe your fingers off because you will get some residue on your finger over time. Different places to lubricate it. Once in a while you do have to lubricate each individual slot. But generally you just want to put a little bit right in there where the needles slide. That will actually slide down inside to all the moving parts. And every once in a while you want to lubricate the ribber. If you put too much oil on here, you also want to make sure to put a little oil in the crank. If you put too much oil on the machine, the oil will drip out the bottom. Now you'd have to put a ton of oil on there for that to happen, but just keep that in mind if you use it over top of carpeting, put something down to catch the oil. If it does start dripping, you've used way too much oil, cut back on the oil supply. For the most part, the machine works very smooth. There's no catches, there's nothing rough movement, so if you're experiencing anything where there's a catch or a rough movement, it's because something's wrong. Stop and figure out what's wrong with the machine. I'll go over a few more things here with you. I'll take my camera. These are some other supplies that will ship with it. These did not originally come with this particular machine. These came from a different auto knitter that I have in my collection. This buckle is when you're knitting a sock, you put the sock through here, clamp it down on the buckle, and hang the weight on it, and that provides a tension to pull the sock down as you're knitting. This weird device is how you start knitting. You'll start with this in the middle, and this is how you cast on. You use the hooks on there to wrap the yarn around the needles and around the hooks, and then you can attach the weight to the bottom, like so. So that's how you'll start. This device is used when doing the heel. It will go right in here like that on the heel side. You can see the red marks, sort of, for the heel. You may want to freshen that up with some red paint or some fingernail polish. These hooks here, they're a little rusty. You might want to just polish them up with some emery cloth. These are also used for the heel. So what you'll get with machine is everything on the cardboard, the needles, and the full machine. Like I said, you want to get yourself a good oil bottle, something with a spout like that, some good high quality lubricant. I prefer silicone lubricant. I don't like anything like WD-40 or motor oil because they both have detergents in there, and the detergents will break down the metal over time. This is a handy tool. It's not included with the sale, but this is what I use on knitting. I transfer all my yarn onto cones before I knit. It gives the best tension coming off the cone. If you knit from a ball of yarn, the tension will over time change, and that will cause variations in your sock. That's the Nickel Tour. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message on Facebook.